Hi guys, welcome back to the MyIBSLife podcast. Whether you're new here or you've been here, thank you for being here. I'm really appreciative that you are. And if you are watching this on YouTube, because yes, you can watch this on my YouTube channel, MyIBSLife on YouTube, look at my background. If you're not watching, you're not missing anything. Let me describe the setting, okay? First of all, I'm in my same spot I normally film in. It's just I've switched the camera view. Instead of looking at my sad beige background that way, you're now looking at this sad beige background, but with a TV. On the TV, I've got like some really fall Halloween-y fantasy land going on, and just pretend we're there, okay? Instead of like looking at this that's going on. I couldn't have even moved that chair for you guys. I left it there, okay? Pretend we're there. And we're chatting on these chairs. And then we've got the leaves. We've got the candles. Like, I was trying to set the mood for y'all. Listen, don't come here for quality. We don't do quality here. We don't do quality sets. We don't do quality content. We don't do quality filming. We are on my iPhone with a poor background. Because I half-ass everything I do, okay? That's not true. But I do half-ass this. Why? I don't know. Here's the thing. I definitely have something going on mentally where there's so many things I want to do, but everything overwhelms me. And then I just start to tell myself, like, I'll never be able to accomplish. Did I say accomplish? I'll never be able to accomplish anything because everything is just so overwhelming and so stressful that I might as well just like give up, you know? And if I don't give up, I might as well half-ass it. So that's what's happening with this podcast. I'm sorry. Again, we're not here for quality. Okay, we're just here for giggles and to chat about things that other people don't want to chat about or just don't get because they don't have stomach issues, which I still can't believe there are people in this world that don't have stomach issues. Like, at this point, pretty much everyone and their mother does. And to all you bitches out there that don't think there's anyone in your life that can relate to what you go through, because, like, this stuff is isolating, okay? It can feel lonely and embarrassing, and, like, you feel like no one else goes through what you're going through. Like, that's such a universal experience for everyone that has ever had a stomach issue in their life. There are so many people in your life that have chronic diarrhea, chronic constipation, they're farting, shitting, pissing, crying, screaming in the bathroom more than you know. And they're waiting for someone to talk about it so that they can talk about it. And that's all I'm going to say because honestly, none of this really has anything to do with what we're going to talk about today. But what we are here to talk about today is kind of like a part 2 to our discussion a few weeks ago where I was talking about jobs I've had while dealing with IBS, and I talked about my experiences in retail, my one experience in retail when I worked at Kohl's. And if you haven't listened to that episode, you should. But also, before you go listen to it, and to anyone who did listen to it, I just want to give a general I'm sorry. I think I mentioned this in last week's episode too, but I feel like that episode came off really negative for some reason. I really did not intend for it to come off as like negative as I think it did come off. And I want to like re-emphasize that I actually did like working retail. I actually liked my job at Kohl's. I stand by everything I said in terms of like the challenges I faced, and you know, it was hard sometimes with my IBS, and it was hard dealing with like people sometimes and whatever. But it wasn't as bad as I think I made it seem. And then when I put out that episode, some of you were telling me that you were thinking about working in retail or a service job, like working at a restaurant and stuff. And I do have a tip for you. The best thing about working in retail was like my employees, my coworkers. And I think I might have touched on this, but I had the best coworkers working in retail. And I feel like in those jobs, in retail, in like service jobs, like the best, some of the worst people are there, but also some of the best people are there. And I feel like that's where you can make like the best coworker friends. And like the people I met there and became friends with, like they were my friends at work. It made every shift so much better, manageable. I could get through it. But then we also hung out outside of work, which was like super fun as well. But my tip is, in those types of jobs, make sure you do make friends with at least some of your coworkers. First of all, like I said, it will make the job better. I promise. Like, going to work will always like kind of suck. You know what I mean? But to know that you're going to like go also see your friends and stuff makes it better. But also, if you ever have to call out, like if you have to call out because you're not feeling well, you're flaring, you're sick, you have to call out because you have a doctor's appointment, and they scheduled you the day of that appointment and you can't miss that appointment. Or maybe you just have something fun going on in your life and you want to not work the day they scheduled you. Having friends will make sure that you have people that will cover for you if needed, but also make sure to return the favor. Here's an ad. I also didn't warn you guys about the ad. The little cute little video we've got going on in the background is just a YouTube video. We are going to get ads. Okay? Again, we're not here for quality. But make sure, let me end this ad for y'all, okay? This is embarrassing. Okay. Make sure you return the favor for your coworkers. You know, if they cover your shifts, cover theirs too. And that's my biggest tip for that. But anyway, today we are going to be talking about my second job out of college, which was the job I left my retail job for, which was my first big girl corporate job. And this episode is going to be like, it's more positive. Okay. I had a really good experience at this job, and let me just like tell you what the job was. Okay. I was a marketing coordinator on a 2-person marketing team. It was literally just me and my boss at a local private accounting firm. It's about as boring as it sounds, but like I said, it was such a good job in so many aspects and in so many ways. I do have to burp. Give me a minute. Here's the thing. I ate soup about 2 hours ago at this point. For some reason, I can't do hot liquids. Is anyone on board with me? When it comes to like drinking hot liquids or eating hot liquids like soup, even tea, I drink tea every day, but even tea, hot chocolate, like something like that, I get so bloated and so gassy, and it like never sits well in my stomach. Oh my God. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sorry for my appearance. I really meant to like get dressed up for y'all and look cute and do my makeup, and it just never happened today. Okay. And I'm so sorry. One day we will get there. Anyway, my job. I worked at a local accounting firm, and the job was great. Especially because it was just me and my boss. I got so much experience in marketing. And I know y'all don't really care about like the technicalities of my job, and you want to hear about like how I dealt with it with my IBS, and I'm going to get to that. But also, some of you do care what I do, which is always surprising to me. And you guys ask me like what I actually do for a living. So let me talk about what I did a few years ago. I started this job in January of 2017. I was 22 years old, literally a baby. Okay, that was, oh my God. I'm going to be 30 in 2 months, in January. It's November 1st. I'm going to be 30 in like 2.5 months. Isn't that insane? Also, half of you are probably like, oh my God, I thought you were 24 because you look 16 and you act 12. Yeah, I know. I was 22 when I started this job. And my job was kind of like split into different things. Like, I was our digital marketing person. I did all of our social media, you know, the Facebook, Twitter. Is that all we had? I think that's all we had at the time. They were like, we're not on Instagram. And I was like, we should change that. And then I always got pushback for that. I don't know why. But also, no one gives a fuck about an accounting firm on social media. So kind of get it. But that wasn't their reasoning. They were like, we are only on Facebook because Facebook's where it's at. And I was like, girl, that's not true. Anyway. I did all the social media, so I did like the content, the captions, posting, blah, blah, blah. I worked on our website, so I was the person managing the website, updating the website, working with our web designers to make it look good and professional and pretty and yada yada. I was a writer for the firm. So I was the one that would write articles to put on the website. I was writing newsletters for clients and our internal newsletter. I was doing email marketing. Like any email you got from our firm came from me. I wrote it. It was obviously approved by someone else, but I wrote it, designed it, all me. And if you responded, I'm the one responding back, babe. And what else did I do? I really the biggest part of my job, I would say, which does go into talking about IBS, so hang with me, was event planning. Didn't know an accounting firm would literally host 800 events in a year, but we did. We hosted so many seminars, we did webinars, but this was pre-COVID, so almost everything was in person. So we did so many seminars, we did so many luncheons, we did so many workshops, and we hosted networking events. And my job, I was the person that was taking care of every aspect of event planning. I was the person that was going to look at venues to host some of these things. Sometimes we hosted it in our office, but sometimes we went off site to restaurants or just venues and stuff. I was the one looking at them, booking it, working with the vendors. I was the one making the invitations, sending the invitations, making the guest list, dealing with the RSVPs. I was the one the day of the event getting there 2 to 3 hours early to set up, to make sure the vendors knew what was going on, to set up technology that we needed. I was the one signing people in, greeting people at the door, sitting people down. I was the person that took care of catering and food choices, which probably shouldn't have left that to me as someone that is a little terrified of food. Okay, I don't know what people want. I don't know what people eat. I can't eat any of this. And then I was the person that was there an hour or two after the event, cleaning up, paying vendors, seeing people out, saying goodbye at the door. I did everything A to Z for events. And then also part of my job was going to our clients' events or going to philanthropic events that our firm was involved in. So going to other people's luncheons and award dinners and galas and seminars and stuff. And the reason I even really go into depth with all that is because that part of my job, it was fun and I enjoyed it and it made the job different, and I got to leave the office, and it really helped switch up the days. But it was also really stressful with my digestive system. And like I was saying, I was the event person, especially when it was us hosting. I could not call off sick on the days that we were hosting an event, because the day before the event, I had to pack everything we were going to need for the next morning in my car, and in my car only. So if I didn't show up, the event wasn't going to happen. Okay? And that was kind of a lot of pressure. And you bet your ass, every time we had an event, the next morning, I was up all night flaring, or up all night not feeling well, just because of anxiety and stress of just knowing I could not feel sick. I wasn't even stressed, oh, I hope the event runs well, I hope everything goes well. It was just I can't be sick, I can't be sick, I can't be sick. And that in return would make me fucking sick. So that was a little stressful sometimes, but I always made it. It was always fine. Here's another ad. And yeah, and then the other part, I was talking about, was me going to other people's events. And that was stressful because, like I said, a lot of them were luncheons and dinners. And I have to burp again. I'm so sorry. Okay. I was a little more polite with that one. Kind of held it in. But the thing about where I worked, it was such a great culture and such a great atmosphere. And I'm going to go a little bit into that in a little while. But one thing about my coworkers And I'm talking everyone from like the lowest levels that I was at, like entry level, to the partners of the firm, aka the like owners of the firm, the CEOs, the highest level of positions at my accounting firm. Everyone loved to eat, everyone loved to drink, everyone loved to celebrate, which is great. It made it fun. We had a lot of like work parties and work events and stuff like that. That was my worst nightmare, okay? As someone with IBS who has anxiety of like food and eating, I've come a long way even since then, but back then it was so daunting. And we're going to talk about my boss, okay? Because she was both the best boss and also like not the best boss. I don't want to talk too much crap about her in the very off chance she ever sees this. But girl, you didn't like me anyway, so it's fine. But one problem that my boss had with me, and it's valid, to be honest, is that for these external events that our clients would host, these luncheons, these dinners, these award ceremonies, galas, I would never volunteer myself to go because it was, like I just said, my worst nightmare, okay? Every time I would go to these events, again, you could bet your ass that the day of those events I was flaring because I was stressed out about having to go. And the reason I would be stressed out is because every single time without fail, I would go to these events and I would either be like anxious and nervous about being there, or whatever they were serving, like I couldn't eat. So I would either sit there with an empty dinner plate, or I would sit there with the food on the plate and would eat 3 bites and be done. And without fail, every single time, me and my eating choices and my stomach problems always became the center of attention at a table full of like 10 of my coworkers, or even worse, it would be like half the table was my coworkers that I like kind of knew. Okay, I wasn't as close to them as I was at my like retail job before that. And then the other half of the table were strangers that got sat with us and I don't know them. And I'm getting like bombarded with questions like, why aren't you eating? Aren't you hungry? Are you not feeling well? Oh, you have stomach issues? What's wrong? Is it this? Are you gluten free? And my cousin's dog has IBS too. And it was just always centered around me. And no matter how hard I would try to like camouflage myself, act like I wasn't there, pretend to be invisible, like I always became the center of attention at that dinner table and having to talk about my stomach issues. And it's like no one, y'all don't want to hear about this. Okay, you're trying to eat, you're trying to enjoy this event. And it was always like just so anxiety inducing to be in that situation. And I would just never volunteer to go to these events because of that. And my boss didn't like that. She was like, part of this job is going to these things and being involved. And otherwise she would always have to go, which at the same time, that was her job. Her job was to be the external marketer. I was more of the like internal, dealing with like all the other things I was talking about. But she would get mad sometimes that I like didn't go to enough events. And like, I understand, but that's where I was coming from, was like, you don't understand. Like, I can't eat. And when I don't eat, it's fucking awkward and I don't want to fucking deal with it. So that was like one tough thing about that job. But with that, let's talk about the positives of this job. The one thing that was really great about this job was that it was very much like we're a family culture. And normally, if a corporate job were to say that to me now, it would be the biggest red flag. I'd go running for the hills. Shut the fuck up. That means you all hate each other. This is the most cutthroat job ever. Y'all are throwing each other under the bus left and right. But this was the only job that ever actually meant it. I actually felt like at this job, everyone there was a family. And they always said that it was a family first, like work second type of environment. And that was also very true. So if at any point anyone had to miss a day of work or leave early or come in late to either take care of themselves, take care of a family member, it was like always excused. Like there were no questions about it. It was just like, okay, take your paid time off or work from home or, make up the hours another time. And like, it was just always understood. And that was so comforting for me as someone that has like chronic condition and feels like shit all the time and sometimes does have to miss a day of work or sometimes just wants to work from home so that I don't have to like have diarrhea in the firm bathroom and have everyone like listen to me, And I really, really loved that. And also it was a type of place where like, let's just say that anyone that worked there, like you don't leave that firm because it is the cushiest, most secure job, great benefits. And it was a place where like everyone left at 5 p.m. except during tax season. Tax season was tough for the accountants because they would have to work like crazy hours. It was like a block of 3 months that they would work their fucking ass off. Every other time, work was over at 5 p.m. and people were packing up and leaving at 4:55. That's the type of job it was. And again, that was great as someone that doesn't feel well. My boss, I had a lot of issues with her towards the end of my time there. Like I said, we just like didn't really get along. And she was like talking shit about me. To like the few friends I had in the firm, she was like openly talking shit about me to them. I don't know why she thought they wouldn't tell me. This woman was in her like 40s or 50s, and I don't want to like shit on her too much because I'm about to talk about the really good things about her. And I really appreciated that she was really great to me in some aspects, but she was also kind of like a mean girl that like never grew up. She was still like a high school bully. She was the type of person that like you would come into her office and she would be like so happy to see you and so animated, laughing with you, asking so many questions, like really engaged with you, and then you'd leave the room and she would look at me and be like, that person's a fucking idiot, or like she looked horrible in that dress. Like that's the type of person she was, and it was awful. Like it was. And if she's doing that to other people, I know she's doing it about me. And she's probably doing it about me the most. But anyway. And she was doing that about me. Oh my God. There was one day. This was when I knew it was over and I needed to find a new job. And when I found out she like fucking hated me, I still don't really know why, to be honest. But she thought I was a bitch. That's what she told my friends behind my back. She thought I was a bitch. And she told them like, Christine's like kind of a bitch. And I was just like, true. Like she's not wrong. You know what I mean? But she's also kind of like that. Anyway, there was one day she was talking like badly about me to the partners of the firm. Again, partners at a firm are like the people that like own the company. They are the highest position. It's pretty much being like the CEO of a company. And she was talking badly about me to one of the partners in her office with her door wide open, and my cubicle was like a few feet from her door, and like the whole office could hear what she was saying about me. That was crazy. But anyway, she was also a great boss, and let me tell you why. She was so understanding about my health issues. And like I said, she never ever gave me pushback anytime I either like called out and was like, hey, I cannot work today. I have to use a day of PTO. If you guys don't know what PTO is, I don't know if that's only an American thing, because sometimes I get questions about that. PTO is paid time off. So that means like you're just like taking a sick day, essentially. Anytime I would have to use my PTO to take a sick day, she'd be like, no problem. You got it. I hope you feel better. Hopefully see you tomorrow. If not, no worries. But she was also great about letting me leave early on days that I didn't feel well. These ads are crazy. She would let me leave early on days I didn't feel well and no questions asked. I could come in late. And she also like let me work from home like anytime I needed to. Like if I was like, listen, I'm not sick enough to the point I can't work. It's just I'm sick enough to the point that I don't want to come into the office. And like I didn't even need to explain myself that much. She was just like, no fucking problem. Yes, work from home. Totally fine. I will see you tomorrow. And like that was just the best. And I really fucking appreciated that about her. And there were even days that like I really didn't miss that much work. I really would try to like push through if I wasn't feeling well, which I don't know if I recommend that. Like sometimes, yes, if you feel like you can manage it, but if you don't feel well, like I always had such a hard time with like calling off of work. I always felt so guilty about it. And I was like, am I really that sick? And it's a really hard call to make, you know, when you got to like call out. It just it adds so much guilt and it's so dumb. But anyway, there would be times I would come in and try to push through the day, and I would walk into her office to like ask her a question, and before I could even like finish my sentence, she would just look at me and be like, you don't feel good today, do you? And I'd be like, no, I'm actually like really not feeling well. And she would just be like, go home. Like, why are you here? Go home. If you want to pack up your laptop and you want to work from home, feel free. But also if you just want to go home and rest for the day, like go for it. And again, like that was so kind of her. And it's so funny too. It's not funny, but she had a daughter that was in high school, and she was telling me that her daughter was having a lot of health issues. Turns out it was POTS. She had POTS, which back then I didn't even know what POTS was, but now being in this space of like chronic illness and stuff, I know that there are so many of you guys out there that deal with POTS, or like so many people that just know someone that deals with POTS. Her daughter had POTS. She would deal with these horrible migraines and fatigue and would have to like go to the emergency room, and was going to all these different doctors and specialists. And my boss was like, I just don't know what's going on. And like I felt so much empathy for her, because I was like, that's been my life, you know, missing so much school, going to doctors, going to specialists, no one knowing what's wrong, getting diagnosed with these conditions that like there's no real cure for, or real like one cure fits all, and like having to try all these treatments and stuff. But I think because her daughter was going through that, like she was a lot more empathetic with me too, which I really appreciated. And yeah, it was just such a like low key. I got paid really well at that job for being my first job. Like I got paid really well for having no experience. We had so much PTO offered to us in a year that we could carry over if we didn't use it. Anytime you were sick and you wanted to like take a day off, they would let you, like I said. Or sometimes my boss would be like, don't use PTO, just say you're working from home, do what you can, I'm not going to ask any questions. And like that was really nice. So everyone was really understanding. And I can remember the first time I ever had to have that like talk with my boss about my IBS, because I get asked that a lot. Like, how do you bring up that you have IBS at work? Do you tell them? And if you do, how do you do it? And I'll tell you how I did it. I have a video on my YouTube channel that is called like times my IBS made things awkward, or embarrassing IBS stories, something. And I talked about this story in depth. So if you want to hear the full thing, like go look for those videos. Long story short, the first time I ever had to leave work early at that job, it was like 3 months into working there. I had been constipated for over a week. Okay. Which is already bad. It had been like 8 or 9 days of being constipated, and not just like constipated, like I couldn't even push a pebble out, dude. Okay. That's how constipated I was. And for some reason I was like at work one day and I started getting the cramping, and I couldn't even like walk. I felt like I was going to like projectile vomit. Like it was so bad. My mom ended up having to come pick me up, and I left work early for the first time. And I remember when I came in the next day, I immediately went to my boss's office, and, you know, she's just concerned. She's like, are you okay? Like, you did not look well yesterday. I know that was like a lot for you. And I was like, yeah. And that's when I was like, you know, I'm so sorry. I left early yesterday. Unfortunately, I do have a chronic stomach issue, and these things tend to happen. There might be many more days in my future where I have to leave early, or I have to call off work or come in late. And I apologize in advance, but I want you to know that I really care about this job. I care about my work. I want to get my work done, and I am more than willing to make up the hours if I need to, or if it's acceptable, I can work from home on those days. I just want you to know that, like, I'm not just calling off because I'm lazy and don't want to be at work. I really care about this. It's just, unfortunately, I have to deal with this thing. And she was so understanding of that. And that's when we had the talk of, like, you can work from home anytime, or, like, you know, if you're not feeling well, just tell me, we'll figure it out. Like, and I know that not every manager, every boss, every job is going to be that understanding. I know that working from home is not an option for so many jobs out there too. But that's how I brought it up with my boss. And I did that at my next corporate job that I'll talk about next time we talk about this topic. I brought it up in the interview. It was relevant, that's why. But that's how I always talk about it. I don't get into the nitty gritty of it, of like, oh yeah, I have explosive diarrhea and like horrible gas. I'm going to stink this place up. It's just, I have a chronic stomach issue. This might happen. And just like showing that you care. Like, I'm not just calling off to fuck off and because I'm lazy and I don't want to work. This job really does mean a lot to me. The work means a lot to me. Whether you mean that or not, you know, just lie. Okay. And just like being like a person to them. I think that will help people understand. And if your job isn't like accommodating at all, if they're not accepting of you, like, you might have to have that conversation of yourself with like, is this job the right job for me? You know, can I do this long term? Is this what's best for me in my health? And, you know, that's a hard discussion to have with yourself and a hard choice to make. But yes, that's how I brought it up to my boss, for anyone that wonders how to have that conversation. And yeah, so I was really thankful that she was so understanding and empathetic. The other amazing thing about this job was it was so close to home. At the time I was living with my parents, and it was about like a 10 to 15 minute commute to the office, and it was all back roads, such an easy drive. And every day we would have an hour lunch. You had an hour to do whatever the fuck you wanted. Also, an hour really meant like anywhere from like an hour to like an hour and a half. And every single day I would go home for lunch. And sometimes that was the only thing that would get me through the first half of the day, because I knew I wasn't feeling well in the morning. And I was like, I know I'm going to have to go to the bathroom, and I don't want to go to the bathroom. Even if it wasn't a flare, like, I just don't like to poop at work. Like, everyone that's like, poop on company time, no thanks. I'd honestly really rather not. And if you would like to, that's your choice, babe. You do you. I'm just not like that. I like to go to the bathroom in my own home, my own bathroom. I'm weird like that. I don't like to go to the bathroom in public. Obviously, if it's an emergency and I have no other choice, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I won't like voluntarily go to the bathroom at work. So sometimes I would literally like, and I'm not saying that you should do this either, but I would like hold it until lunch and race home to go to the bathroom at home. And like, it was just such a nice feeling that I could do that. And I just loved it. And I wouldn't have to like rush. And it was just so nice. But speaking of bathrooms, at this job, honestly, the bathroom situation wasn't that bad. We did have a men and a women's bathroom on our floor. And our floor was just all my job. So there were like 3 stalls in the women's bathroom. It was a nice bathroom. But, you know, it can be awkward if you're having some stomach issues in there and people know what shoes you're wearing. And they hear you, you know, and then you got to go back into the office. Like, it was in the hallway, so it wasn't like people in the office heard what was going on, which was nice. But hack, if you work in a building that has multiple floors and there's bathrooms on multiple floors and you are a shy pooper or you don't want people hearing your business, I'm with you. Go to a different floor, okay? Because it is so, and that's what I would do. I'd literally either go, we were on the second floor, I think. It fucking doesn't matter. I think we were on the second floor. I would either go to the first floor or the third floor. I knew, depending on what time of day it was, I was like, okay, if it's in the morning, I'm more likely to have success going to the downstairs bathroom with no one being in the bathroom. Or if it was in the afternoon, I would go to the third floor. And that way you don't have to come face to face with your coworkers that you're about to go into a meeting with and they know that you just had explosive diarrhea or that you were grunting trying to push out a pebble. You know what I mean? So do that. Also, if you live close to home, hey, say you gotta go to a networking event, go home, use your own bathroom. Or use your lunch break to go home or whatever it might be. Also, carry like a travel size poopery or something and bring it in your purse and then like just bring it with you to the bathroom. If you're afraid of someone like smelling your business, just do that. Okay, little spray, spritz. And yeah. Otherwise, that's really how like my second job while dealing with IBS went. It was a really positive experience for the most part. Another, I really am trying like not to rag on her too much. I'm sorry, but I will say that this boss was the type of woman where if I would flare, like let's say I had to miss a few days of work because I was having like a really bad IBS attack, to the point like I like wasn't even able to eat for a few days because I was that sick, and then I would come to work, she would comment about how my body looked. Like she would be the person that was like, oh, I need IBS. I want to look that skinny. Or like, oh, I need a good stomach virus to lose a few pounds. Like, I want to look like you. Oh, and her favorite thing to say to me was like, I'm sorry you felt like shit, but you look great. I was like, girl, that is so wrong. That is so fucking wrong and inappropriate. Shut up. I'm miserable. I haven't eaten in days. I haven't had a solid poop in a week. Shut up. But otherwise, she was great. A lovely person. And I really do appreciate her. And honestly, all she taught me in that job, I learned a lot from her. And, yeah, you know, we didn't always get along and whatever, but she was good other than that. So anyway, yeah, that was my second job working at the accounting firm. I have like one more part to this series. I can talk about my next job after this, and another corporate job where I worked at like a health and wellness center. And that job was, I only have bad things to say about that job. So I'm like, do I even talk about it? I don't know. It was so bad. And that's when I started my IBS life, was like pretty much right when I ended this job I just talked about and then took this next job I'm going to talk about. And if you guys have been around for a while, you might remember the days I used to like vlog in my car during my lunch break every single day and talk about how miserable and sick I was. That job made me so sick. And just the irony of it all, that it was a health and wellness place and they had a doctor who helped people with stomach issues and IBS and stuff. And it was the sickest I had ever been. If you guys want to hear about that, I'll talk about it. And yeah, otherwise, that's all I have to say. I've been talking your ear off for like almost 40 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and shut the fuck up. But I love y'all. Happy November. Happy fall. We're approaching the holidays. I hope that's exciting and I hope you're feeling good. But I also know that this can also lead into a stressful time. So I'm here with you no matter what you're feeling. I love you. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope you have a great weekend no matter what day you're watching this. And we will talk again next week. Okay? I love y'all. Bye-bye.